If you're planning for retirement or already in retirement, a big question people have is, how can I have a successful retirement? Well, by the end of this video, you will gain clarity for your personal retirement plan and have action items to secure your retirement.
To learn more about securing your retirement and all the different elements you need to know, subscribe to our channel and hit the bell to be notified when we post a video every Monday. We have helped hundreds of our clients gain clarity and get on the path to a comfortable and happy retirement. Now it's your turn. Let's dive in.
Welcome to our Retirement in Action. And today on our show, Merce and I are going to talk about the point, how to have a successful retirement plan. Sometimes I think people get a little bit focused on their retirement plan and they really kind of just start with and stick with just one part, which is the investment strategy. And we believe by far the investment strategy is extremely important. But how do you know how to invest? How do you know how much you can spend? How do you know all of the answers to everything that would be in connection to your successful retirement plan? And by what we talk about here on the show all the time is how to secure your retirement. How do you do that? Well, we're going to really break it down into 4 components. And these 4 components we believe are essential to having a successful retirement plan. So when we go through this, it's going to sound like, oh my goodness, that's a lot. But just remember that it's not a lot if we just put it together and we put it into a plan. It's actually very simple. So the 4 areas, what are they? First and foremost, a retirement financial plan. We're going to talk a little bit about that today and as to what that means. Number 2, we do believe a good investment strategy with risk management is extremely important. And remember, I'm going to say it again, a risk-managed investment philosophy or strategy. We believe that's extremely important. The third area is taxes, a retirement tax strategy. That is essential. Taxes can change how long your money lasts and how much you can actually spend. So that's a very important one. And the fourth area is estate planning. How do we set our estate up so that it's actually going to be the most effective? So let's back up. And we believe that this first part is really the foundation of the entire process. Without a good retirement financial plan, then we just don't know what to do next. We have to have that. Now, Merce is going to break this down, but I want to make sure that this is really fixed in your mind. We hear all the time about a financial plan. A financial plan, though, could be for any segment of life. You could be 19 years old and you need a financial plan to say, how am I going to save money? Or how much money can I spend? That's one type of financial plan. But I want you to really remember that we're talking about a retirement financial plan, because the focus of this financial plan is about retirement. So we really are building this with somebody usually about 10 years out from retirement, or they might already be in retirement, but it's a retirement financial plan. So Merce, can you kind of, first of all, give us the outline of all the different things that would be in there, and then we can talk about those different topics.
Yeah. So like you said, we do treat this as the foundation of everything that we do. Having a well thought out retirement financial plan is very important for a lot of different reasons. I mean, think about it. You work for 20, 30, 40, 50 years before you decide or before you get close to this concept of retirement. And there's a lot of things that happen over that time. You start to amass some wealth in various different buckets, different types of accounts, and you at the end, at some point, you got to start putting it all together. And so what, in our opinion, a good, sound retirement financial plan includes is, well, you got to go through the goals as far as retirement, and we'll talk about that. Assets are huge as far as, well, how much have I saved and how long is this going to last me? Income is very important as well. Income from the perspective of, am I going to get a pension? What about Social Security? Do I have rental property? And Social Security obviously is always a hot topic. When do I take that? Do I take it at 62? Do I wait until 70? There's articles all over the place about that. And then we want to be able to handle the what ifs. And there's so many what ifs. We're planning for the next 20, 30, 40 years of your life in retirement. And there's no way to plan that out perfectly. So we got to at least come up with some what ifs as to, hey, if this happens, are we okay? Like, what about a long-term care scenario? Are we okay in that type of situation? So I'll break them down a little bit further. So goals, the first one I mentioned, in our mind, goals are what you would like your retirement to be. And that is from the aspect of, when do you want to retire? Do you want to try to retire early we see it as early as 55, 60, 62? Or do you want to go with the more common 65 to age 70? Where do you see that as far as how you want to run your retirement in all essence? And then a huge part of that is also, what type of lifestyle do you want to have in retirement? Do you want to be able to travel? Do you want to have that second house that your friends and family can join you at? Or are you just comfortable staying in your area and just hanging out with your family and spoiling your grandkids? Everyone has different goals. And so we got to understand those in order to create a plan that's going to meet those goals. The assets part of it, you work, you save, and you accumulate all these different types of accounts, whether they're IRAs, 401ks, Roth accounts, taxable investments, and then you've got real estate. So you can go all over the place. So we want to be able to know, hey, what are all the assets that we've accumulated, be able to see them all in one place. And then, well, how are they going to work for us when we do actually pull the trigger? We've got no actual salary income coming in the door, and we have to rely on these assets that we built up over years. How is this all going to play out? Income is such a huge conversation, because you could be very wealthy and maybe not have enough income coming in the door to cover all of your needs. So income is really, in our opinion, is broken down as far as an expense perspective. How much do you need? We break it down into really three main categories: essential income needs, keeping the lights on, paying the bills, staying relatively happy; your wants; and then also your legacy money or gifting money. And so we like to see a large portion of those essential income needs covered in a very fixed, predictable way. And so where's all that money going to come from? How are we going to structure the assets that we built up to provide us this income? And then Social Security, once again, we do a whole evaluation on, when do you take Social Security? You may have read an article that says, wait, if you can possibly wait until age 70. Well, I'll tell you, that's not always the case. We've done a previous podcast on how we view Social Security, but ultimately, every family is different. Every situation is different. And it's not just because that one article said wait till 70 that you need to wait till 70. You need to evaluate it based off of your entire picture. The holistic view, in our opinion, is going to give you the best answer as far as when you yourself should be taking Social Security, whether it's 62, full retirement age, which is around 66, 67, or as late as you can, which is age 70. And then the what ifs can be all over the place. What if they can be positive or negative. What if I have built this plan on spending X, but hey, what if I want to, for the first 10 years, because I'm relatively younger, I am able, and I would like to, for the first 10 years, travel for, and let's add that into the budget for the first 10 years, because I think that is possible for me to do. When I'm in my 70s, 80s, I don't think I'll be doing that anymore. So I want to do it now while I still can. So that's a very common what if that we run. Another common one is, what if one of us, or what if myself, what if we run into a long-term care scenario? This one can be a bit overwhelming, because the long-term care insurance world is something that's difficult to navigate. A lot of times you can either be paying these premiums, and there's headaches around paying long-term care premiums, and there's other avenues as well, but the cost for long-term care is very expensive, whether you're talking about the insurance or you're talking about going into a facility. It's expensive, and it's nerve-wracking. And so, but it is reality. And so we got to make sure we're talking about, well, do we need long-term care insurance? What is the possibility of us having this scenario? Can we self-insure? And then another what if is, well, what if a spouse predeceases the other? Is the surviving spouse going to be okay with the assets that remain? So just a couple of those. We run through all these all the time, and this is just the basis, the foundation of a good retirement financial plan. And this helps us think through all the questions that we've asked and we haven't asked yet. And it kind of gives us a roadmap as to how things are going to play out. And a nice part about this, when we started from the beginning, is that you've taken the time to sit down and do it, and you've got something physical to look back at over your years. Maybe you're not retired yet. Maybe you're 5 years out and you started building this plan out 5 years ago, and you can look at it every single year and update it every single year and say, hey, are we on track or not for this goal of retirement that we had 5 years ago? So lots of really good reasons to sit down with someone or do it yourself, but start constructing out your vision of retirement and how that's all going to play out.
And I know that in our firm, what we do is we put all that together, and it's not one of those big 35, 40-page documents. It's a very simple document that somebody then can take home. And I will tell you, that's probably one of the most eye-opening, peace of mind times that people ever have, because people sit there and go, wow, okay, I have done a good job. I can handle these things. And it ends up being a very, very positive experience. But that's what we start with. We start with that retirement financial plan, and then that helps us kind of make other decisions. Now, it does lead us into how are we going to invest the money? And one of the things that we talk about all the time is a risk managed portfolio. Now, that is different than a buy and hold type portfolio where you say, I want to be 60% stocks, 40% bonds, and then I'm going to manage my risk that way. We believe that there is a time to be invested. There's a time not to be invested. And so we manage that risk for our clients. Now, how do we know, though, what their threshold is? Well, Merce and I take all of our potential clients and current clients through a risk conversation, not a risk questionnaire, by the way. A risk questionnaire is been around forever, and you basically go through, and it can come up and it can go very broad and say, oh, you're a moderately risk, you're open to moderately risk portfolios. Well, what does that even mean? In our risk conversation, we take you through real numbers. So you got $1 million. Let me ask you a question. If your $1 million was down 20% or $200,000, how would that make you feel? And then somebody goes, not good. I would be very nervous. It would actually make me have a very stressful retirement. Okay. Could you handle a 10% correction? $100,000. I wouldn't like it. Say the client, I would not like it, but I could live with that. I understand that I have to take some risk. Another person might say, can't handle it. And so we go down to 5%. Then once we know what that number is, we can then build the risk or the portfolio and manage that risk with that individual's desire. We might have somebody who says, yes, I want to be super aggressive. I can handle a 15 or 20% correction as long as I know that we're making a good rate of return. But that's very individual. And so we build that portfolio and we manage it based on that base for that family. So again, a risk managed portfolio is extremely important because I could have a really good retirement plan. And if I lose 34% of 30 or 40% of my money, now all of a sudden my risk, my portfolio or my retirement plan is upside down. So we need to have that. So, okay, let's transition here a little quick, and we're just going to take a couple of minutes and talk about these next two, but retirement tax strategy. Can you kind of talk about a couple scenarios there, Merce, that we need to look at on that?
Yeah. And so when we're talking about assets, the different types of accounts that you accumulate, really it comes down to you've got pre-tax assets, you've got after-tax assets, and then you've got tax-free assets. So it's very important to understand how that works when you're taking withdrawals. Sometimes, you say you amass $1 million in a 401k. Well, that $1 million is not all yours. Some of that is going to go towards taxes. And so it's important to understand how you're going to pay taxes. So for example, a Roth account is tax-free. So ideally we're building up that Roth account, especially with the threat of taxes going up in the near future. And then you've got your taxable accounts where you're going to really just pay taxes on the gains in a given year or the dividends. So you take those three, couple them together, and now you need a good tax strategy. One very common thing that happens right now that we talk to clients about quite often is, let's say you retire at 65 and you're used to making $200,000 a year as far as income goes, and all of a sudden your income goes way, way down. Well, that is an opportune time before you reach the age of required minimum distributions to start thinking about Roth conversions. Roth conversions are such a huge topic right now, especially with the threat, once again, of taxes going up or just the unknown of our tax future over the next 20, 30 years of your retirement. So Roth conversions, by the way, very quickly, is just taking pre-tax assets, paying the taxes on them, putting them into a Roth account, and then now that allows that to grow tax-free. So that's just one of many strategies when it comes to retirement tax strategies that we look at. We have software that we utilize to help us run through multiple what-if scenarios as far as Roth conversions, or what if we realize this much amount of gain in a certain year. And then on top of that, we also have CPAs that we work with very closely and are on retainer for essentially a second set of eyes or some questions that we just cannot handle for all of our clients. So very important is understanding your tax liabilities in retirement and how we can try to manipulate those in our favor.
All right, we're going to conclude here with the estate plan real quick. And I think the big picture here is making sure that we have our beneficiaries correct and who they should be, and that we have them set up so that they can be tax advantages for them. We can talk all about that. That's probably a whole entire podcast right by itself, making sure we got beneficiaries correct. But making sure that we do have a will in place. I don't care what your situation is, you should always have a will. And then making sure that you have a healthcare power of attorney and that you have durable power of attorney. Durable power of attorneys, by the way, are extremely important. If we've got a family, let's say a husband and wife or a couple, and they have their individual retirement accounts or IRAs or 401ks, those are owned by an individual. You can't have those be jointly owned. So if something happens and an incapacitated person isn't now in place, the other person can't touch that account or do anything to it unless they have that durable power of attorney. It's extremely important for you to have to have peace of mind in retirement, that you have these very simple documents in place. They're not difficult, but we make sure that we talk about it with every one of our clients, every one of our potential clients. It's extremely important. But now, before we stop and conclude, I want you just to think for a minute and envision this. Envision that you have a comprehensive retirement financial plan that's looked at all the things Merce talked about. It looks at your goals, your assets, your income, your Social Security, when to take it. And we've handled a couple of what ifs. You have a very good risk managed investment strategy. You have a good tax strategy, and you have your estate documents in place. Do you think you're going to have peace of mind in retirement? Absolutely. And that's what our goal is. Our goal is to have peace of mind. If we had those things in place, that's what we would have. And that's our goal. So by the way, if you're listening to this and you think, hey, I'd like to talk a little bit about this, you can very easily schedule a 15-minute complimentary, no obligation conversation with Merce and myself, or one of the two of us. All you have to do is go to our website, pomwealth.net. And you'll see it throughout the website. There's a little button up there that says schedule a complimentary phone conversation. Our calendar comes up. It's very easy to do. So if you'd like to do that, we would encourage you to do so. But we hope this has been helpful. We always like to hear your feedback. So if there's any comments you'd like to leave us or tell us, we'd appreciate it. But we'll talk to you next week. We hope this video has given you some confidence and clarity as you plan for a worry-free life in retirement. But what else do you need? We have created a complimentary video course called 3 Keys to Secure Your Retirement. This video walks you through step by step what you need to do to get ready for retirement. You can also check out our podcast called Secure Your Retirement. You can subscribe below.
For more retirement tips, watch this video. Create your retirement income plan. Also, click here to subscribe to our podcast, Secure Your Retirement. If you like this video, hit the like button and be sure to subscribe and share it with your friends.